folks, welcome back. This is Joel, and in this video we'll continue with our discussion on SD-WAN. We will actually enter into what we call as the policies, right? So we will start with the policy configurations from this video onwards. Before we even get to the lab, I just want to spend a couple of minutes just to do a recap on whatever we discussed earlier on policies, right? So when we talk about policies, we are mainly talking about control policy and data policy, right? So control policy is mainly for tweaking your routes, right? The various routing parameters, right? And that's basically done under the control policy. So if I have to quickly put something up here, I would basically put in my vSmart here, because everything happens, everything is centered around vSmart, right? And so I would say we basically have our control policy over here. Let me use a different color. Might be confusing otherwise. So I would basically say we have two policies. One is my control and the other one is your data policy, right? So under the control, you basically have again two segregations. The first one is your centralized, right? And the other one is local. Similarly, under data we have the centralized and we have the local policy, local data policy, right? So now let me just let's just clarify on the various functionalities of these policies, right? And then we can start with the lab. So under the centralized control policy, I would basically do certain topology related, right? Before that, control policy, like I just want to reiterate this again and again, because control policy is mainly the policy which is going to tweak our routing parameters, whereas data policy is something which is where which is applied on the data traffic, right? So that's something very important to note. Now under the centralized control policy, you can think of something like topology related tweaks, right? For example, you want to put in a traditional like route maps. You want to prevent one edge from reaching a certain subnet. You want to do something with respect to TLOC path preferences. Let's say you have two TLOCs for a particular destination and you want to like prefer one over the other. So all of that happens under the centralized topology related tweaks, right? So all of that you do under this. The second thing is VPN membership, right? We have talked about VPN a lot, right? VPNs are basically nothing but VRFs in case of Viptela SD-WAN. So we have talked about service side VPNs, we have talked about transport VPNs. Now when a topology comes up, when SD-WAN comes up, right, if you don't want one edge to participate in a particular VPN, right, so those kind of policies can be defined under centralized. Now the local control policy is mainly specific to, I would say, BGP and OSPF, right? So BGP and OSPF, so tweaking some local routes which are there on the edges, right? So that's something which you do here. So this particular policy has nothing to do with any routes going up to vSmart, right? So this is our regular diagram, right? So you have a vSmart here, you probably have a V edge over here, and you have a V edge over here, right? And you have the OMP sessions over here, right? So I would say the centralized policy is something which is going to be used mainly over here, around here, for tweaking the routing updates which go up to the vSmart, whereas local is not going to be used here. It's going to be mainly used only on the generally on the service side, if there is some kind of a BGP and OSPF routes which are being used and you want to tweak, right, within the service side and local to the router, right? So when we talk about local, what happens is the configurations are pushed down to the edge, right? And the base configurations go down to the show running configuration, they get pushed down to the device. But when we talk about centralized, right, the configurations are not stored on the device, right? In case of centralized, the policy is just defined on vManage. Obviously it gets pushed on to vSmart, and from here the vSmart is going to use that policy to drive the drive the routing updates, right? So that is the main distinction between centralized and centralized and local control policy. Similar is the case with data. You have the same centralized and local, right? Local I need not even reiterate, because like I said, here in case of local, the configurations are going to change on the device, right? The policy gets pushed on the device and the configurations change. Whereas in case of centralized, this is little interesting here. because it is data policy, there is no point in just having this configured on the vSmart, right? So the vSmart is going to push these configurations down to vh, but it won't obviously go down to the running config. Rather, you can think of it like a special memory over here, right? In this memory, these configurations are going to be stored, and they are basically, or the policies are going to be stored, and they are going to act on the data which is entering or exiting the device, right? And what is covered under this, I would say something like mainly under centralized data policy, you do some kind of ACLs, you do some kind of QoS matching, right? Based on the data packet, you can classify it, right? You can do some kind of natting. So all of such kind of policies. You also do something very interesting, which is application aware routing, right? Application aware routing and all of that. So we will see more of this later, but these are some of the things which you can do here. Local also, you have certain overlap. I would say there are certain things which you can do here, like for example ACL, QoS and all of that. But the main distinction, like I said here, is that one is that the configuration in case of local is stored on the device, whereas here it is not. And local gives you more granularity, right? Because this policy is applied per interface, right? This is applied per interface, whereas this one is more on the lines of applied per, either to the transport VPN or something like to the service side VPN, right? So that's the main distinction, right? So I just wanted to give you a quick idea about this before we proceed with the lab. Just to give a heads up, and we'll probably understand more about this as we enter the lab, right? Okay, so starting with that, let's start with the first policy in this particular video. We will be doing basically the control policy, the localized control policy, right? So we have a not sure if my pen is visible. Let me just pull my pen up. Right, so what I want to do here is so we have configured a bunch of things till now in our lab, right? And that's good. We have set up the controllers, we have set up the edges, we have set up the BGP here in the MPLS side, we have set up the internet part of it, right? Which is pretty much good. We also have some kind of OSPF which we have set up here in the last lab. We have set up a service side service side OSPF on the VPN 10 side. So all of that is good. So what I'm going to do today is that we want to do some kind of policies, and mainly we're going to be doing two policies. Excuse me. So we have it's obviously going to be local control policy, right? So because that is the whole title of the whole video today. Let me just pick this. So it's going to be obviously local control policy, right? So it's going to be local control, but we have a couple of use cases which we want to tackle today, right? And the use case first one, what we are going to do is, the first use case is, you look at these routers, right? The ones which have the MPLS over here, right? So BR1-2, the BR2 and BR3. So what we are going to do is, we are going to take this router, the BR whatever, BRX, right? Don't consider the first one, just 1, 2 and 3, right? So these routers. So what we're going to do is, we're going to put in two policies. One is on the inbound direction, and another one is the outbound direction, right? So we have two use cases, like I said. Probably I'll talk about the second use case later. We will start with the first use case because I don't want to dump in a lot of information. So we are going to do two policies as part of our first use case. One is the inbound policy and the other one is the outbound, right? What is the inbound policy? Or let's start with the outbound. So the outbound is, what we want to do is, we are going to create some loopbacks here, right? On this, right? On this guy and here as well. So we're going to create the loopbacks. The loopbacks are going to be something like 10.0.0.103, right? And this is going to be the same thing, 10.0.0.102, and this one 10.0.101. So we're going to create these loopbacks on the transport side, right? In the VPN 0. So we're going to create this. Good till now. So we are going to create these loopbacks. And what we intend to do is, we want to advertise these loopbacks, right, in the BGP. And while we are advertising it, we want to set the community value to 1.6, right? So we're going to set this value. Great. So in the outbound direction, we are basically going to advertise some, loopbacks over here as part of our BGP. We already have BGP running. We just need to advertise. And while we are advertising, our use case is that we want to send a community value which is 165,000, right? I'm not going to explain what is community and all of that. That's basic BGP, but this is what we are going to do on the outbound direction. On the inbound direction, what we want to do is on the same routers, we want to accept only those prefixes, right? So we want to accept only those prefixes. I mean, the action is going to be accept in both the cases, obviously. I mean, we want to send out certain prefixes, which is nothing but my loopbacks with a community value of 65,000. And on the inside of the inbound direction, we want to again accept, right, only those routes which have a community value of 65,000, right? So we are going to accept only those routes which have a community value of 65,000, plus probably let's also accept any routes which are corresponding to what? Let's pick a subnet, for example this one. So we are going to accept either this or anything that belongs to 10.0.101.0/30, right? So that is our use case, right? So this is the policy number 1, or the first use case. I'm not going to go with the second one right now because I don't want to overwhelm you with information. This is what we are going to start with, right? So you understood the use case. The first thing is we're basically going to create the loopbacks on 3 of these devices, and we are going to advertise them into BGP. We already have BGP here, so we are going to advertise that into BGP. Remember, this is in VPN 0, right, in the transport side. So we're going to advertise them into BGP, and while we are doing that, right, we're going to put in the community value of 65,000, right? Let me just highlight this one. And while we are accepting routes, because it is BGP, right, so you're going to sometimes send routes, or you can also accept routes. So while you're accepting routes, which is in the inbound direction, we are going to accept only the ones which have the community value of 65,000, or it has to be this particular subnet, right? So that's the use case. And now let's start playing around and how we can achieve this. Okay, let me just minimize that. It's going to be a pretty simple lab, I would say. Probably more fun than the previous one. So yeah, so let's pick this. Maybe let's go back here. Probably I'm logged out. We'll have to check. Okay, the dashboard is there. Cool. So this is where we are. We have done this as part of the previous lab. So now, first thing, right? Let's start by going to my, just pull this here. Yeah. So this is where I am. Let's go to my R1. Sorry, not R1, BR1-2, right? So let's say, let me just show you the topology, right? So let's start with this one, right? I talked about these 3 routers. These are the ones which we are going to play with. Let's pick the first one, BR1-2. So on BR1-2, let me log in and let me clear the screen. Let me show you what are the BGP routes which we have right now, right? So IP BGP, sorry, I think it's not IP BGP, it's still BGP routes. There we go. So we have these routes, so many routes, right? Let's just quickly go over these routes. So on this, I'm getting the routes which is 0.0, the default route, right? I'm getting the default route from here. So it's coming to our MPLS, and from there it is coming down here. So that route, we are getting the 10.0.1.0/30 also from the same place, right here, right? So I would suggest you take a screenshot of this topology and keep it with you while you're watching the video, so that you don't have to quickly go back and forth. So so this is going to be the other guy, right, which we're getting from that particular router. And then you have 10.0.1.4, which you're getting from obviously here. So this guy is sending it out. And similarly, you have the rest of the 3 routes coming in from 101, 102, and 103 network, which are nothing but your these directly connected routes. So these are your BGP routes right now, right? So we are getting the BGP routes blindly without any kind of filtering, right? By using this policy, we are trying to limit and get only the routes which we need, right? And we are basically trying to filter that using that community and all of that, right? Great. So first task, let's go and create those loopbacks which we talked about. Let's go here. Let's go to our templates. Let's see the templates. Our template seems to be growing day by day, which is good though. Looking at the feature templates we have to create here, I believe we already have some kind of a loopback template, so I could probably use that. Yes, there is a loopback template. Let's just copy this, right? So I'm gonna basically call this as uh, let's say we'll call this as loopback 100, right? So, and this is going to be actually in VPN 0. So let me just mention that as well. Otherwise, because normally I create loopbacks only in my VPN 10 or service side. So, right. So VPN 0 loopback 100, right? So we have done that, and now okay. So we have created here loopback 100, and let's go and edit it. Why we did that? Because we did not want to create a new template from scratch. We just copied the old one, right? So now you just need to come here and change this to obviously 100, and change this to 100, and probably change this to instead of saying service, let's call it as transport. Awesome. That looks good. We'll have to do some changes in the IPv4 side. So here, let me just go down a bit. Yeah. So here, what we'll do is let's just go and change this. So this is going to be VPN 0, right? VPN 0 interface. Which interface? Not loopback 10. I'm going to change this to loopback 100 IPv4 address. 0 with the address. Okay, that's good. And that's it. I don't want to do anything else here. Let's update. So now we have created. Next is we need to apply it to the device templates, right? Let's go here. So we'll apply first to BR1-2, and I believe these both have the same template, so I can apply it in one shot, right? So let's apply to BR1-2. There is BR1-2. Yep, here, right? So this is the template for that. Let's go and edit it. Where does it go? It would probably go under the transport and management VPN section. Just have this over here. Okay, so where I was, yeah, we need to basically apply that particular loopback here. So this would basically come down here on the transport and management section. We already have a bunch of things here. So we have the BGP, we have the VPN interface and all of that. We will have to add one more VPN interface, right? And adding this, we'll basically add the loopback which we created just now. Here, there we go. And let's update it. So as soon as I hit the update, it's going to ask me to put in the value, right? So I'm going to do that. And what's the value going to be for BR1-2? It is scroll down here. So from the topology, I think I cleared this out, but this is what I want, right? 10.0.0.101, right? That's what we want. So let's go here. It's going to be 10.0.0.101/32. Update. Next. I did not see it. I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine. So it's running, I believe. Yeah, it's in progress. This is where it's happening. It's probably not a come. Do I have a brief command? Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I can see the loopback 100 here. and it has come in with the IP address which you wanted. So great. So that probably went in. Yes, succeeded. Let's do it for the rest of the two devices. Going back to templates. And the two of the devices have the same template, right? So this one, the dual transport. So we're going to attach it here. Let's edit it. Go here. Let's add a VPN interface. Let's come here. Let's give it VPN not 10, sorry. Just scroll a bit down. There you go. Update. Right. Let's attach. Sorry, this is for BR2, so it's going to be, the value is going to be, just change this to 102. We are done with that. And the other one is going to be 103. Let's come here. 102. Let's change 2 to 3. There you go. So that is done as well. Awesome. So we are good here. Let's configure. Select, and there you go. So once that is done, we will basically have the loopbacks created on my topology, right? The loopbacks on BR1-2, BR2, and BR3. The next is basically we have to advertise those loopbacks in the BGP, right? So that's the next step. Let's check if this is succeeded. Yep, it's done. We did not check. I think it's good. So I will trust the system and go down to templates again. Let's go to feature template, and we have to go and dig our BGP template, wherever it is. Here it is. Let's edit it. And under the BGP template, where do we go? And we basically go down to, still loading, I guess. Let's go top. So I believe it's unicast address family, IPv4. Yes. So we have it here. And under the network, right? Go under the network and let's add a new network, right? Because we're advertising, right? So we need to add a new network. So let's scroll a bit down. Right, under the network, every single device or every single branch router seems to have a different loopback, right? So we need to make it device specific. And under the device specific, let's make it, let's just remove such a big name. All right, so what we're going to do here is change this from, it's going to be device specific, and I really don't like such a big name. So let's make this BGP underscore, say, VPN 0 underscore, let's make it network underscore prefix, probably prefix 1, right? That's good. So we have created a name which is more resounding. And do we want to mark this as optional? No, not needed. I mean, or let's add it as optional. I mean, in case if someone doesn't want to advertise their loopback, right? So that would take care of it. Let's hit the add button. So we are done with that. So that is it, right? With respect to advertising, now I'm good to go and update this. Right, so we have edited our, we have edited our, the BGP template. So did we, okay, so we are supposed to now fix this. Okay, so that's good. So give me a second. This is the single transport BR1-2. All right, so now let's go and advertise, right? So we'll take this, and we are basically advertising the loopback here. Let's update it, and let's also change it on this particular device. So here it's going to be what? For BR2 as well, it's going to be, let's copy this, update. So it's 102 here, and here it's going to be 103, right? So basically advertising the loopbacks, inside BGP. I just want to double confirm if I put in the right IP address in the previous one. Let me just check that. It's 101, yes. So that's good. So we have put in. Let's go to the next button. I don't want to really check. I'm pretty sure it's good. Wait, let me just load this at least. Got it. Yeah, that's good. So let's confirm this and let's push this on all the 3 devices, right? So once we do this, we should see the 10.0.0.101, 102, and 103, the 3 loopbacks, right, appearing on my 3 sites, right? So let's wait for this. I just have one site. Let me just pull my rest of the 2 sites as well over here. Keep it ready. All right, so here, has it been pushed? Yep, it's successful. Now let's check. Let's check. I'll have to basically do show IP BGP. Okay, no IP, right? Show BGP route. And there you go. So in this route, I need to find 10.0.0.101. Yes, I find 10.0.101, 102, and 103. Right? So we have those 3 routes. Those 3 loopback addresses have come down here. Right? So you can see here 10.0.0.101, 10.0.0.102, and 103. Right? So it's getting advertised. Let's also check on the MPLS side. Right? So this is my MPLS side. Check here. Show show IP route probably. Right here as well, you can see 10.0.0.101, 102, and 3 learned via BGP. Right. So whatever we did now worked. Right, our BGP worked. BGP setup basically worked. I'm not sure if the ping would work. I could just quickly try. 10.0.0.103 is on the device itself. 102. Okay, probably the tunnels are not up. So anyway, so that's not a issue. What we are intending is what we wanted is basically to see if the BGP routes are getting exchanged, and we can see that, right? So on the MPLS router, which is this particular router, right, we are getting the BGP routes which were advertised as loopback, behind these 3 edges, right? And on the edges also you can see the routes from the other branches, right, which we just now verified, right? We were able to, on BR3 we were able to basically or I think BR2, on BR1 1-2 we were able to see the routes, right? Here you go. All right, so that is done. Now we have the base setup, and we can start with the first policy which we were talking, right? So let's start by creating the policy. So for creating the policy, you have to basically go down here to the policies section. This is the first time we are doing this, so it's going to be fun. So go down to the policy, go down to localized policy, because we're doing local policies today. Add a policy, right? So once you add a policy, you get something like this. Let's create some of the variables. Like when you're coding, right, you basically create a bunch of variables which you're going to use later. So this is going to be similar principle. So we want the community value, right? So we're going to create a new community value, right? And probably we'll call this as 65,000 or com underscore 65,000, which is cool. And the community value is going to be 1:65,000, right? Let's add this. So it's like basically creating variables, right? So that you can use it later. What else do we need? We need these prefixes, right? Because in our policy, if you look at the policy here, right, what we are doing is we are, when we are basically tagging or we are appending the community for certain prefixes. And which are those prefixes? Basically the loopbacks, right? For the loopbacks, we are basically tagging. So we have to create the, we have to create what? We have to create the prefixes, right? So Okay, so we will go back and create those. Okay. Let's go to here. Let's click new prefix. So under the new prefix, let's give it a name, which is loopback. Right. So let's call it as prefix underscore mpls underscore loopback. Right. It's going to be an IPv4, and the address is 10.0.0/24. Right. Because that's the loopback. Right. 10.0.0 we have 101, 102, and 103. Right. So anything, and this is basically a prefix list, right? So we're going to say less than 32. This is how you create a prefix list. We're going to add that. And remember, in our use case or in our example, we also want to allow this particular subnet, right? So for this subnet also, we'll have to create another variable. So let's go and do that. So let's create one more prefix list, and that we are going to call it as pfx underscore, say br12 for that specific, and the MPLS, subnet, right? Network, MPLS network. So that particular subnet is exactly 10.0.101.0/30, right? That's the subnet. Look at the diagram here, this one. So explicit to that, good. Add, we have created two subnets, two prefix lists, sorry, which is going to match this particular addresses which we have created. Now let's move on. Let's click on next. Excuse me. Click on next. We really don't want any of this because these are concerning our centralized data policy, centralized control policy, and all of that. We just directly want to go to route policy here because that is relating to what we are discussing today, which is your localized route policy, right? So come down to this configure route policy section. Once you are there, right? Once you're there, excuse me. Yeah, once you're there, we'll basically go and create a new route policy. That's what we want to do. And remember, we are doing the outbound first. We'll do the inbound next, right? So we'll start with the outbound. For the outbound, let's give a name, right? Outbound, when I say outbound, it is from BGP towards MPLS, right? So any prefixes from BGP going towards MPLS. So I want to keep it very intuitive. So let's name it as like that. So it's BGP underscore to underscore MPLS, right? Let's copy that. Let's put it here. Right, that's the name of the policy, which is cool. Next is, let's go to the sequence type, right? And let's click on sequence rule. So here you create your matching rules, right? And for me, what is going to be the matching rule? It's basically going to be based on this address, and we have already created this. Let's use the loopback. So we want every loopback and the action, select the action, select accept, right? Not just accept, I have to do a bunch of other stuff. What? I need to add the community value. So let's add the community value. What community value do I want to tag for these prefixes? 65,000. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. I mean, that was my use case, right? For any of the loopbacks, when it is advertised outside, I want the community to be 61:65,000. Add. That's it. So you've created a sequence rule here, right? So excuse me. So that's good. Let's say save policy. Okay, 2 or more sequence types have same name. Please rename and save the policy. Did I make a mistake? Give me a second. All right, so that seemed like a very weird error. I just removed and added it again, and it came here successfully, which is good. So we have added one policy here, and this is for the outbound direction, right, when the routes are going outside. Now let's also quickly add the other one, which is, we could name it MPLS to BGP, or let's say BGP. I think that's easy. Or okay, let's say BGP from MPLS. Right? When you see the word from, just imagine it to be an inbound policy. So we'll just go and save it here. what else? So once we have that, we have to come down here and add a sequence rule. And once you are here, you have to select the address, and this is going to be for what? So here, first thing is, let's select this particular subnet. So we want to basically accept this segment. So the action here is going to be accept, right? So that's good. Let's save this. And we will have to add one more sequence rule here, right? Because I said in my example here, if you look at the example again, I told I want two conditions to be checked here. So when a prefix comes in, either it has to belong to this particular subnet, which we have already added, or it should have a community of 65,000. So we are going to do this part now. So let's go and create the second rule. We can probably copy this, edit it. And instead of this, I want the community to be selected. I really don't want this. Community is going to be 1:65,000. Oh, sorry, I have to select it, my bad. Right? So we have accepted. Let's, so this is accepted, cool, save, save. There you go. So we have really finished. Look how simple it is, right? We have really created the whole policy which we wanted to do in like few clicks. That's the power of, the whole SDWAN, I would say, right? So we created this policy. Let's go to the next step. We'll have to give some name. So we'll say local policy something, local policy for BGP. Right, let's go and put the name. Local policy for BGP. And what else? We don't have to do anything here. We can save policy. All right, so what we did till now is just creating the policy, right? We have to now somehow connect these policies to the device templates which we have. So we will go to the device templates over here. So this is the device templates. Which are the devices where we want to attach this, right? We want BR1-2, BR2, and BR3. These are three places where we want to put it. So we'll go there. Let's go to BR1-2 first, this guy. Edit. Remember, we are still in the policy configuration part. We have not even applied the policy. We are still in the policy configuration. We have created a dummy policy which is still not applied anywhere, right? We are still just, see, in any, even if you are configuring a policy on a device, there are two things, right? You first create a policy, then you take that policy and apply it under some routing protocol, right? So it's always two steps. What we are doing right now is all just step one. We will have a detailed step two later, right? So the step one again. So we go down to the device, probably go down to the additional template section. And here you can select, what do you select? The policy here is the policy, right? And you can go and update this. So once you did that, do we have anything to put in here? Nothing. So let's go and update this. Next. And you can also see where the policy is going to be configured. Let's have a look at that, probably for one of the guys. So we can do a Control F for probably prefix list. Yeah, there you go. See, the prefix list which we configured, all of that is going here, right? So it is getting configured. So let's hit the configure button. Good. So we have just put this on BR1-2. We have to still go back and do the same thing on BR2 and BR3. Again, remember, we are not configuring, we are not enabling the policy yet. We are just configuring the policy on the devices. So it's always a two-step process. First you configure the policy, then you go and tweak your routing protocol to use the policy, right? So we are still in step one. So this is good. Let's go back and finish our step one for rest of the two devices, which is these two devices. Let's say edit. Same step, go down to the additional templates, select the policy, update, and no values to be added. So we are going to go configure. select no. All right, so let's wait for that to happen, and then I'll probably log into the device and show you. Okay, so actually we have already pushed under BR1-2, so I should be able to show you here, right? So let's see that. Give me a second. All right, so here we have just created the policy, so I should probably be able to show you here. We're gonna have it in the running config somewhere. There you go. See, the policy has come here. The prefix list, the policy, all of that has come, right? We have still not applied this policy, so we'll have to do that. That's going to be next. So this is done. So we have created the policy on all the 3 devices. Now we have to apply. For applying, we have to again go back and tweak our templates, which is the BGP template in this case, right? Just imagine like how you would configure an actual device via CLI, right? We follow the same steps. So here, let's go and search for my BGP, right? Let's go here and let's edit it. And under the BGP template, we have to look out for, I mean, this is a policy which you want to put it on a neighbor, right? So when the BGP neighborship is coming up, so let's go to the neighbor section here. So under the neighbor section, what we are going to do is we are going to hit the edit button here, and we will go down to, we're going to keep this as is. No, so we will have to enable the address family over here, right? Otherwise it won't get applied. So when you do that, it's kind of like little hidden, right? So you go and select IPv4, scroll down a bit, you should have an advanced option, right? So under the advanced options, if you see here, you should find that route policy somewhere over here. Let's search for it. It's sometimes hidden. You have to search for it. Where is it? So address family is done. So excuse me. So is it under the, give me a second. So there should be a tag called route policy somewhere here. Here, okay, I missed it. So the route policy, and this is going to be what? Outbound route policy, right? So we are doing the outbound first. So let's go and turn this one on, right? So we have turned on the route policy, and here we have to go and mention the route policy, which is BGP underscore 2 underscore to the MPLS. Okay, it's stuck a bit. Give me a second. I believe it's so this is the name which we have to use. BGP from, not from, it has to be, I see only one route policy over here. Give me a second, let's check that out. All right, so it was actually down here. I had to just hit the enter button. So this is the one which I'm talking about, right? So we can normally copy it and then paste it so that you don't have any, spell errors. So we're gonna do that. We are putting the policy, and so just be careful over here. The outbound policy is basically, okay, I'm not enabled the inbound, right? So let's enable this. And we'll go top. That's weird. It's not giving me. Okay, so this is on. Let's turn this on. Yeah, so it's turned on. So the inbound policy is going to be what? BGP from MPLS. Right? Let's just make sure that the spellings are correct. Let's see here. We have BGP2 and BGP from MPLS. So that's good. So let's go back here. So BGP from MPLS, BGP to MPLS. So we have both the policies put in place. And let's save. Right, so we have edited that. Let's update this, right? So we're gonna do this on what, all the three devices, right? So we don't have to configure anything, I believe. Do we have to? No. So we've done everything. So it's going to be applied on all the three devices, which is good. Let's hit the next button and say next. Or let's just wait for it to load. Let's see if there are some errors. Yep, that's good. So let's hit the configure. Okay, so there you go. We have literally pushed in all the configurations needed to make our, have we? I think we have. I'm not sure. Let me check. Okay, I believe we should have. I think we have finished the whole exercise for BGP, so we should be able to see the outcomes once this is done. There are some bugs sometimes I have seen, so we might end up with those bugs, so we'll have to check that. Meanwhile, let's wait. So I see BR2 is done, so we can go to BR2. Let's do show BGP routes. Okay. So okay, so I think it's I see the 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we have 00102 and 101. Let me just check again. Yeah, so let's verify this. Right? So as per our use case, did it work? What was our use case? Let's just recap. So on the inbound, I should have only the routes which have a tag of 65,000, or it should be part of the 101, right, network. So let's check that. So on BR2, okay, I think I should do show BGP details probably. Details, yeah. Okay, so these are all the routes. Let's go top from the first one. So the first route, it has a tag. It has a community of 65,000, so it got imported. The second one also has it. The third one, does the third one have it? I don't see a community value on this one. I see a community value. Okay, because this is the local route, right? It's on BR2. It's a local one, correct? Whereas on the third one, I see the community again. So it is getting imported, which is correct. This one also has 65,000, which is getting imported. And the last one is getting imported because of our use case where we have mentioned that it should either have 1:65,000 or it should be part of this subnet, right? And it is part of that subnet. It's 101, right? So there you go. So we have verified what? We have verified the inbound policy, which means we are basically getting the routes which we really want. Let's check, we will have to now check the outbound policy, right? So on the outbound policy, what we have done is that when the routes are basically going out, right? Let's just look at the policy again. When the routes are going out, we need to see that if they are getting tagged as 65,000. So we'll check that on my switch. Oh, sorry, the router here is here. Right, let's do this. Enable. Let's do show IP BGP routes probably. Right, so there you go. So we have these routes. Now we will just double check on this particular route because I want more details on, say, one of this route, which is, you know, this is the loopback, right? It is supposed to have the community. There you go. We are getting the community value, right? So basically our policy worked. Whatever we started doing, we wanted to do two things here. We wanted to make sure that when the routes are going out, we want to put a tag or community of 65,000, and we wanted to import only those routes which have a tag or it belong to this subnet, right? And that worked. So that was basically the use case number one. The second use case, let me just write down the second use case now. All right, so the second use case is that so we have the OSPF, right? We have the OSPF here, right, between R1, R2, and so between R1, R2, and switch 2. So let's take one of, let's assume this is my, right, so let's assume this is my Rx, either it is R1 or R2. So what we intend to do here is we want to do a redistribution policy and we want to do a inbound policy. We can't do an outbound policy in OSPF because, you know, obviously we want to keep all the whole LSA database to be common, right, inside the same area. So we are basically doing, instead of outbound policy, we are doing redistribution, and instead of inbound policy, I mean, we are doing inbound policy, right? So inbound policy is basically that what we'll do is we'll probably pick some prefixes, right? We'll pick some prefixes and we will say that, you know, only those prefixes are allowed. For example, we will pick the switches loopback, right, and probably a couple of more, maybe like the default route and stuff like that. So we're gonna pick a few of these prefixes and we are gonna allow only those to to be advertised, you know, inside OSPF. So this is the OSPF. We have a OSPF here, right, between the router and the switch, right? So what we are gonna do is we are gonna allow only certain prefixes inside the router, right, and that's going to be part of that's going to be the inbound policy. Whereas outbound policy we don't have, so we're going to do redistribution, right? So when the OMP routes are redistributed inside my OSPF, we are going to put some some kind of we are going to put some condition. We're going to say put a tag for the routes, change the metric probably to 10 or something like that, right? So we'll see that as we create this thing. So that's the idea, right? So we have OSPF here in this section between R1 switch and R2, right? And that's what we are trying to do. We are basically trying to use route policies to tweak the routing tables, right? To make sure that we filter out the routes as they are coming from the switch to the router, and also when the OMP routes are redistributed into the router, we are making sure that only certain routes are redistributed, and we are going to put some tags and stuff like that when we distribute, right? So that's the basic idea which we are going with here. And you'll get to know as we progress in this particular use case. This is a pretty interesting use case again, very common one, right? So let's start with the first part. So before that, let's have a look at our existing, let's go to switch 2 probably. And I want to show you guys how the routing table looks like. So IP route OSPF, right? This is my existing routing table for the switch 2, right? So you can see these are the routes which are learned from the other sites, branch 1, branch 2, branch 101, 102, 103. These are also learned from that side, right? From the other branches. Basically, these are the loopback addresses, right? Which you see here. The system IPs which are defined as loopback under VPN 10. So these are all learned over here. That's good. And these two are basically directly connected to my R1 and R2, right? Over here. Here also you have the loopbacks, right? And they are getting directly advertised. So that's your current OSPF table under my switch. We can also check out the OSPF under R1. I just want to show you this so that you understand the difference once we put in the policies. So IP route, let's say VPN probably 10 and OSPF. There we go. So we're getting a lot of routes now. We are getting probably we're getting for 32, we're getting for 60, 99. All of these are coming from the switch. These are directly connected routes of the switch. They're coming here. 16, 16, and all of that. So we will just make sure after putting the policy, only few routes are seen here, right? So that's our goal. Let's go back here. Okay, it logged me out. I think even vManage is tired. Admin. All right, so it's logged me inside, which is good. Let's start with let's start with what? Let's go with the localized policies, right? So we have doing everything in policies today. So we will play with the policies. Let's go to localized policy, and we're going to do a simple trick. We're going to use the hyperlink from here to create all those variables which we talked, right? So we have to create some lists, right? In SD-WAN, those lists are variables are basically called as list, right? And you basically get redirected here. So we can create those. Let's start with creating those prefixes which we need, right? So let's add a new prefix. Let's say PFX. What is this prefix for? So this one is going to be for the remote network, right? So this is going to be used. So remote network is basically, if you look at my topology, it's basically the network of the branch, right? Remote 172.17.0.0/16, right? Less than, let's say, 32, right? So that's my remote network, right? So there you go. /16 looks good. Less than 32, yeah. Reference con. So this is the network, right? These VLANs /16, yeah, that's the VLAN. So that's good. So we are done with that. Let's add the next one, which is going to be the VPN 10 loopbacks, again for the remote sites, but we'll say PFX underscore VPN 10, and we'll say loopback, right? And the network is going to be 172.16.0.0/24 and lesser than or equal to 38. This is straightforward prefix list, right? Nothing new here. A lot of the concepts are reused, right? It's not something new. Next, let's create another for the default, right? We can put something and put a policy over there. So let's create a variable for default. Okay, I don't like that. So default here, and it's going to match everything. So 0.0.0/0. We're good with that. What else? Let's also add the switch once loopback. We can do some policy over there as well. So we'll say PFX underscore the switch which we have underscore loopback. The switch loopback which we have, and we are going to say 172. I believe it is 16.0.10, right? Right, yeah. So this one, right? The switch to loopback, whatever we have, I'm not shown there, but that's the loopback address. 172.16.0.10, and that's good. What else do we need? Let's also create one more for the servers which we have. Let's just assume for a minute that the Windows is a server here, and this is in the 32 subnet. Let's use that. So PFX underscore, let's say, server, right? And it's going to be what? It's going to be 172.16.32.0/24. That would be that network, which is good. Okay, so we have created all the subnets we want. I think that's more than enough. Now let's go and create the policies, right? So first is your redistribution policy. So for that, go here, out policy, add a new policy, and it's going to be called as what? What do we call this? We'll say OSPF redistribution, from where? From OMP, right? So OMP routes are getting redistributed into OSPF from OMP. So that's good. Let's just copy this, and let's create the sequence type, sequence rule. And once we are here, now let's create some very interesting use cases here, right? So first is let's go to the addresses. We want the remote network which we have created. So we want the remote network to be, let's look at this thing. I forgot the use case. So we want the remote network to be advertised inside, so accepted inside the OSPF, right? Let's do that. So let's go here. Match is done. Action is going to be accept, but not just accept. I want to change the metric. So let's change the metric value to say 10, right? Right now, if you look at the this thing, you will see the metric value is going to be huge, right? So you can see the huge metric value. I want to change this to a smaller metric value. So I'm going to do that. So that's good. I think metric type also, let's change it to probably type 1. I think it's type 2 now. E2, right? We want to change it to E1. So type 1. And I also want to add this OSPF tags. I recently learned about it, so I want to try that. Do we have tags here? Yeah, okay, this is OMP tag. I don't think we have OSPF tags. Oh, it's here. Okay, so the OSPF tags, I'm going to add a tag called probably 1. That's enough. Right, so that's good. So we have a rule created. Now we created it only for one prefix. I want to do this for multiple other prefixes. You can duplicate it, just change the address here to something else. So let's remove this and let's add the VPN 10 loopback, right? So because we want that as well. So scroll down. Yep, this one. Save. So we are done with the second one. And do we want to add anything else? Yeah, I think those are the two, which is enough on the redistribution side. So let's save this. Now let's add one more policy, which is going to be for the inbound, right? So it's going to be OSPF. We did the redistribution policy. Now we are going to do the OSPF from VPN 10, right? So we are basically doing the inbound OSPF policy, right? So right, when R1 is learning the routes from switch, we want to limit certain routes, right, inside when the routing updates are coming inside. So that's what we are trying to do now. So that's good. So let's go to switch, service type. Let's create this, and let's use address. What is it going to be? Let's do the default route. We want the default route for sure. So let's allow the default route to come in, right? So that's allowed. What else do we want to do? So let's save this. Let's duplicate this. So we are done with default route. The second one is I want to allow the switches loopback as well. Right, so let's do that. So let's remove this and add probably the loopback of the switch here. Save again. Let's also do one more, which is the server farm which we have, right? The Windows PC. We want to allow that as well. We want to allow that to be advertised inside OSPF. So where is that server? Here, right? All of this is going to be accepted. So we have created 3 sequence rules here, right? Very simple. All of the 3 are going to be accepted, and we are almost done. We have created the route policy. So let's save this. Right now we need to, so we have created just the route policies, but we haven't created the localized policy yet, right? So we have to do that. So let's go to localized policy. See, we had created local policy. Similarly, we are going to create one more. Right, let's just click on next. So next, and here let's import whatever we created just now. One is the OSPF from VPN 10 import. Let's import one more, which is the OSPF redistribution. There we go. So I've imported both, and I'm now going to the next line where I'll basically give a name for this particular localized policy, which is, let me call this as local OSPF for the headquarters. Right? We created local BGP earlier. Now we are creating the local OSPF. Awesome. So once we are done with that, what do we do next? So we are done with that. So let's save the policy. So now, like I said, right, like we have done this before, we have just created the policy. We have to go to my templates and add this policy. So which are the devices? It's R1 and R2. So we have R1 here. Let's go to R1 first. Is that R1? So we have headquarters R2 is here. Headquarters R1 is here. Cool. So this is R1. Let's edit it. Let's go to this additional templates. Let's select the policy, which is OSPF, update. And let's say next, configure. There you go. So my R1 should be getting the policy anytime now here. Once that is completed, let's go and push the same policy for R2. It's almost done, guys. Yep, so that's good. So we have it on R1. So let's go back to the templates and do it on R2. Here, headquarters R2. So we go here, let's say edit. Let's go to templates, scroll down, policy, let's select OSPF, update. Next, configure. While that is getting configured, we can just check if everything came good on R1. So I could do something like, I don't know, do we have show route? Or just let's do show run just to see if we have the policy which we created with the prefix list and all of that. There you go. So see, these are the prefix lists which we just now created, and you can see the route policy also visible here, right? Which means it has come. Great. So this is done. Now we go to the last part of the exercise. So we have configured the policy, but we haven't yet tweaked our routing protocol to use the policy. So we go back to templates. Just like we tweak the BGP, we're going to now tweak the OSPF template. Let's go to OSPF. Let's say edit. And we are basically doing all of this for what? Two things, right? For redistributing. So let's go to redistribution. Let's go to this OMP. And under the OMP, let's give a name. What is the name of the policy? Which is, let's just pick it up from here. This is the name, right? So let's just take it as is and paste it here. Save. And let's go to the advanced section. Okay, did it get saved? Let me just check that. Yeah, so the policy has come here. Good. Let's go to the advanced section, and here you will see the inbound. I mean, there is nothing as inbound and outbound because it is understood that you can't have an outbound policy. So it's just going to be inbound. Let's change this. And here we are going to use the other one, which is here. I think it got passed. Yeah, this one. So we will just take this and we will put it here. Okay, so we have done that. Let's update this. So we have put in both the policies. Now it's obviously going to go on which device? HQ1 and single transport, HQ1 and single transport and this and this. Yeah, on R1 and R2, right? So it's going to go on both the devices, so which is good. I don't think we have to fill any variables. So we are good to go. Let's go next. If you want to check, you can check as well. Right, so it's going to be here and configure. Let's click on this. Great. Once this is done, we'll basically quickly verify and we'll be done with this lab. Right, so let's keep this thing ready. So this is what we saw earlier, right? The routing table here. Okay, my routing table is gone. Hope it's somewhere here. Okay, so this is what we saw earlier. right? Now you'll start seeing some changes. Like for example, this E2 would have changed to E1. This metric would have changed, right? So we will get to see that once this is pushed. Is it pushed already? No, it's still going in. Yep, one is pushed. Let's wait for the other guy. We are pushing this on R1 and R2, the headquarters routers. Yep, it's done. Now let's run this. Okay, so show IP OSPF route. My bad. Show IP route and OSPF. There you go. So you can see the changes, right? The OE2 has changed to OE1, and you can see the metric has changed to 20. Remember, we also added this tag value. So let's check that out. Did the tag change? So show IP route, and let's pick one of the routes, say this one. And you see the route tag also has come, right? So our policy was applied correctly. This was the redistribution policy, right? It was applied correctly. Now let's check the inbound policy. For that, let's go to R1, right? Remember, we have the output from the previous here. We should have it somewhere here. Yeah. So this was the output. Now now when we check the show output, we'll basically end up getting very less routes when compared to this, because our policy is doing that job for us, right? So let's go here, and then you see we have less routes. Give me a minute. One sec. All right. So just to verify the second part, if you check here, if you check my screen, show IP routes VPN 10 OSPF, right? Earlier you probably would have seen all the routes installed, but now because of our policy, we just have three routes, which are you can see what is this FNS stand for. It is fib and selected, right? Rest of the routes are inactive, right? They are still in the table, but they are inactive, right? So we have removed them. So we just have the default route, the first one. We have the switch loopback address, and we also have the server, prefix which we activated, right? So that kind of shows that we have achieved what we set out to do, right? We basically created, just to summarize, we created a BGP policy where we had an outbound policy where we were tagging the community value, and an inbound policy where we were accepting routes only from a certain community or from a certain subnet. From a OSPF perspective, what we did was we don't have an outbound policy here, so we did something called as a redistribution policy, where when the OMP routes were getting redistributed into OSPF, we kind of tweaked them. We made sure that we changed the metric, we changed the OSPF tag, and so on, and we verified that as well. On the inbound side, what we did was we added only a certain subset of routes, because switch has a lot of connected routes over here. We did not want all those routes to be on R1, right? Or I mean, at least to be on the fib, right? It is still on R1, but they are not on the fib. So we limited that by putting the inbound policy over here, right? So thanks for watching. That was the whole stuff which I wanted to show under local control policy, and do tune in for other videos in the future. All right, thank you.